Hello, everyone. Welcome to today's Graduate Mentor Workshop. What is a career portfolio or a portfolio career? It's great to see everyone here and to learn from our speaker, Ben, today. So we will get to Ben in just a moment, but I'll just introduce Graduate Mentor first. So we do host webinars like this once a month to give students, graduates, and mentees extra guidance and advice as they make the transition out of university. So I am Karima Kiat. I am the marketing manager for Graduate Mentor, which was founded by Dan Hawes in 2020. So the idea of this platform is to allow students and graduates free one-to-one mentoring sessions to help them reach their career potential with expert support. So I am also the marketing manager for Graduate Recruitment Bureau, which is the go-to platform for university students, recent grads, alumni, and recruiters. And we have just over 75 staff and growing at the moment, and thousands of clients across all sectors with clients such as Amazon, IBM, Unilever, and Ocado, and several other SMEs too. And our recruitment experts have successfully matched thousands of graduates with either graduate or executive level jobs too. So, excuse me, since we launched Graduate Mentor almost 3 years ago now, we have a community of over 6,000 students and graduates on our platform. So they represent a full spectrum of backgrounds, universities, and courses, which with a lot of them representing diverse backgrounds and unrepresented groups. So this is the main audience that we are trying to help get on the career ladder. So now this actually shows you where the main bulk of our mentees are from in terms of university and course. And as you can see, there's a really good diverse range there too. So we have achieved a lot over the last 3 years, and as I've said, we've hit over 6,000 mentees on our platform, and they have all completed a session as well. So 300 mentors have actually joined us too, and we've hosted 13 workshops just like this one, where which are all recorded and on our website for you to look back on after this as well. And so we have a large social following reaching around 53,000 accounts each month, and 23 success stories from mentees that have either had great outcomes from their interviews, landed a job, or just gained confidence in their job search as well. So we have hosted skills webinars as well, directly with 7 different universities and counting. And we have some great partners supporting us that help us to cover costs and allow us to maintain Graduate Mentor for the future. So thank you to Graduate Recruitment Bureau, SureServe Group, Softwire, and Oakwood as well. So moving on to our speaker today, Ben. Ben is the CEO and co-founder of the Portfolio Collective, which helps professionals launch a successful portfolio through training, collaboration, and work opportunities. So I'm sure he'll tell us more about that in detail, but Ben has a wide range of experience, including being a British Army officer, COO of Google Europe, and various global technology CEO roles, along with publishing an award-winning book, Marketing for CEOs, Death or Glory in the Digital Age. So we've got a lot to learn from our expert today, and I know everyone's really looking forward to it as well. Just to note, whilst Ben is speaking, please make sure to keep yourself on mute, but please type any questions throughout in the chat that we have throughout the presentation. You're more than welcome to, and then we can cover all the questions at the end. So the webinar is being recorded too, as I've mentioned, so you do have a chance to come back to this when you need to in the future. And on that note, Ben, would you like to take over?
Wonderful, thanks very much. I will share my screen. Here we go, that should be right. Is that working for you?
I can see that, yes. I'm hoping everyone else can as well. Yeah.
Right, guys, so great to be here. I'm going to be talking about just what is a portfolio career. There is a fun phrase out there, the future of the company is the individual. It's probably not quite as extreme as that, but it's kind of a fun, radical way to think about life. You know, does a company really need to exist anymore, or can we all just get work done, you know, and collaborate in lots of interesting ways? So just a quick intro to me. You heard a bit about my background. You can kind of think of my background in decades because I've got a few. The first decade was the British Army. I went straight from school to Sandhurst for officer training. Also picked up an engineering degree along the way because I wanted to be a civil engineer. So I spent 10 years basically in the Royal Engineers, traveling around the world, building things and blowing things up. Lots of fun doing both. Decade two was kind of big business. Went from the army to McKinsey as a strategy consultant, and from there to Coca-Cola. Did various sales and marketing jobs in Greece, Poland, and India. Ended up the number 2 in Coca-Cola India, running a big turnaround. Decade three was kind of big tech, ad tech. I was the COO of Google Europe for a few years, then did various tech CEO jobs around the world. And decade four, which is not over, it's a few years in and going very well, is focused on my own portfolio career and helping other people have portfolio careers and generally thinking about the future of work. So what I'm going to talk about, it looks like a really crowded agenda, but there's only 1 or 2 slides on each, so don't worry. And in fact, why don't I just jump straight in? You will be sent the deck, so you can take a look at this after. But first of all, the world of work really is changing a lot. I'm sure I don't need to sort of explain that it is, but maybe let's explain a little bit more detail how some of the changes are happening. And there's been a real career evolution over the last 50, 60, 70 years. If you think back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, talk to your grandparents, if they're still around, you know, the aspiration was a job for life. You know, companies would do everything themselves. You know, conglomerates were a big thing. What helped set you up for success was like insider knowledge, insider reputation, trust, network. And it's all about join the right company on the graduate trainee scheme and then work your way up from there. By the 1980s to the 2010s, it was more like jobs for 3 to 5 years. You know, this was mostly my world in my early career, is you absolutely picked the right companies. You didn't change too often because then you were thought of as a job hopper. So you typically do at least a couple of jobs per employer. Good to sort of get some experience, also to show that you did a good job, got promoted. Why was that? Well, companies started, the conglomerates got broken up. Companies started to focus on their core skill and then outsource work to partners. But that meant you could move between partners and employers. Business education like MBAs and the internet made it easier to transfer knowledge. So you didn't need to be an insider to understand how things work. There were case studies, there were frameworks, models, etc. And then professional service firms, consultancies, lawyers, accountants, etc., would service these firms. And in essence, you could then jump between accounting firms or consulting firms and sort of, let's say, service or manufacturing firms. So lots of ways to mix and match your career. But ultimately, it was a job per 3 to 5 years. The way the future is looking is that an awful lot of companies and people will think of work as just a service. You do a job to get something done, then you end that job and do a different job, and maybe have multiple jobs at the same time. There are actually a lot of forecasts that say by 2030, only half of adults will have one permanent job and no other source of income. That means half of adults will have multiple income streams and effectively a portfolio career. Let's look at it with different dimensions. If you think about it from a work perspective, there's lots of dimensions. Here are a couple. One is, with any piece of work, you need to say, is this a low-skilled job or a high-skilled job? I need to say, is it a long-term requirement, like we'll need it every day, every week, every year for the foreseeable future, or is it a short-term requirement? And simplistically, it's only really when it's high-skilled and long-term requirement that we probably need a permanent hire. If it's low-skilled and long-term, you automate it. If it's low-skilled and short-term requirement, you probably get a gig worker, like, you don't have company drivers anymore, you just use Uber, and there's a lot of examples like that. But if it's sort of highly skilled, but you only need someone for a project or some advice or a day a week, rather than full-time, you use a portfolio professional. So I've used this phrase quite a bit, portfolio professional. What is it? The good news is the clue is in the title. Portfolio means you have multiple sources of income, and professional means you have special skills and therefore high earnings. So this is effectively the white collar part of the gig economy. And they're really taking off. And it was accelerated, like a lot of things, by lockdown. Individuals found they wanted more flexibility, more variety, more autonomy, more increased income diversification. You don't want to have all your eggs in one basket with one company, because what if it goes bust? What if they lay you off? That's a pretty high risk strategy for yourself and your family to have just one job. It's a bit like if you're an investor, do you invest all your money in one company? Probably not, because what if that company goes bust? You've just lost all your money. You have a portfolio. Just like investors have portfolios, we should have portfolios. It's also an opportunity to earn more. If you can really do this well, you can earn more and, quite frankly, pay less tax than people in full-time jobs. On the company side, companies want more flexibility. The world is changing faster and faster. I'm sure you're all picking up on that, because opportunities come, threats come, opportunities go. If you do something well, you need to scale it really, really fast. If something goes wrong, you need to downsize really, really fast. So having less people on payroll, but being able to flex up and flex down based on opportunities and threats is really important for companies to survive and thrive. People also want faster and more efficient hiring. The old way of hiring might take 3 to 6 months to fill roles. In that time, the need has changed. So it just doesn't work anymore. As they on the lower fixed cost base, you also want access to the best talent in the world, not the best talent that lives within 1 hour of your office. So in a world of more people working from home, there's opportunities all over the world. And we're already seeing that with computer scientists, software engineers, etc. Is most engineers refuse to go to offices. Most companies have learned to live with that. Salaries around the world are moving up closer to US levels because, in essence, a good engineer is a good engineer wherever they live. And that will happen with other jobs soon. So let's jump quickly into the types of portfolio professionals. And we have broken them into 4 types. And I won't go through in loads of detail, but you'll get the slides afterwards. But the first one is a side hustler. This is like you still have the day job, but you're making money on the side. By the way, if you're not making money on the side, that's not a side hustle, that's a hobby. Once you start making money on the side, that's a side hustle. You could be a wedding photographer, you could do some, letting out some properties, you could do a bit of consulting, you might do a bit of public speaking, you might just be a waiter at weekends, you might have a startup that you're building on that has the odd bit of revenue, but you've got something going on the side. Obviously, most people have those these days. The second one is a freelancer. You are absolutely self-employed, but you often work for only 1, maybe 2 clients at a time. You are outsourced labor. When the project's over, you will be let go. That's all part of the deal. But you're independent. That's kind of cool. One of the things that defines a freelancer is typically the client owns the intellectual property that you create. So you are doing work. You're paid by the hour, by the day, or by whatever, by the project. But ultimately, you're not creating intellectual property. Someone else's. Then there's the multi-hyphenate. These are the people who do multiple things that are not related to each other, and they don't care. That's just how they want to live their life. We've got many examples of those in our community. And then you've got the focused expert. These are people saying, I want to be the best at something, the most knowledgeable at something. It might be the best in my industry, the best in my geography, the best in my function. Maybe I want to write a book on something, or have the best data set, or have the best reputation. But one way or another, trying to be the best at something, so that you can start making more. You can make more because you're seen as the expert. People are less price sensitive when they're talking to anyone who's the best at something, whatever that might be. And one of the nice things with the focus experts, they tend to have their own intellectual property. They do build their own data sets. Maybe they write a book. Maybe they have some materials that other people want access to, or some other form or a process that's pretty cool and unique. I won't go through these 4 in the interest of time. You can read them at your leisure, but they're just a little bit more detail than I went through. So I said at the beginning, the future of the company is the individual. What does a 1-person business look like? And you can imagine it for starters, because they exist. You read the odd case study of, in the past, if you wanted to make, let's say, shoes, you needed to work for Timberland or Nike or someone like that, because there was a machine, there was a design bit of the business, a manufacturing bit, a logistics bit, a marketing bit, a sales bit, a partnership bit, etc. If you want to be a shoe company now, you probably need to be a pretty good designer, although in theory you can outsource design. You can outsource manufacturing to somewhere in Asia. You can outsource logistics to Amazon. You can do the marketing on Instagram. It's not that hard. You just built a 1-person company. Literally, you can build a 1-person company doing almost anything these days. And so it does kind of question, why do you need companies? And there are some reasons, I won't go into them today, but in many, many cases, you can build a 1-person company. And then you need to think through, well, how do I do it? How do I manage my time? So within this world of I'm a 1-person company, what do I do? You need to look at each task and say, what is the work? How long will it take? What skills are required? And then you kind of go through a thought process of, could I do it? Or yes or no. If it's yes, then you go one way. If it's no, it's like, okay, does it make sense to learn it? And if it's yes, you go and learn it. Teaching yourself new skills is an essential part of being self-employed. If it doesn't make sense to learn it, outsource it. Get someone on Upwork or whatever, or a friend or whatever, but basically get someone else to do the work. If you're confident that you can do it well, then you need to think through, is it the best ROI on your time? If yes, then do it. If no, outsource it. If you're not confident of doing it, then maybe you get support. Do you get a mentor or an advisor? Tap into a community, find someone that can help you do it better. But there's a lot of kind of mental models that you need to understand if you're really going to do it well, but ultimately it's all doable, whatever the task. Now, clearly, there's a lot of skills you need to learn, to be a successful, independent portfolio professional, let's say. And there's kind of two bits to that. There's one is you need skills that you can monetize, which is often like the skills that help you provide a service to your clients, let's say. The second is the skills required to be a better portfolio professional. So the skills you might help your clients with, you might be really good at machine learning or AI or fundraising or social media, or change management, project management, org design. There's all sorts of things you could be good at that you can monetize. To be a good portfolio professional, you need to be good at networking, pitching for new business, working, time management, personal branding, etc. And if you get a few skills help you do both, which is kind of nice. But you really do need to think through, what are the skills I need to be a portfolio professional? What are the skills that I will monetize as part of my offering, let's say? So what should your offering be? Finding your focus is such an essential part of being a portfolio professional. And a model we like, and some people, purists apparently say this isn't Ikigai. I found it on the internet as Ikigai, but there is a Japanese concept, which in essence says you need to try and find the sweet spot of doing what you love, what the world needs, what you're good at, and what you can get paid for. And if you can find that, then obviously that's a pretty nice life. Your work doesn't even feel like work, and you're getting paid for stuff that you might do anyway. Kind of nice. Clearly, it's hard, and it does move over time. But in essence, it's a nice model to do that. And a fun exercise, if you want to really reflect on who you are and what you want out of life, is to basically take this model and really write those lists of what do you love, what does the world need, can you get paid for, what are you good at, and see where the intersections sit. So with what you love, it's like, what gives you fulfillment? Look back at your life or look forward and think, what really just makes me happy? Learning, what do you like learning about? Because if you like learning about something, you're going to get better at it. And learning doesn't feel like work. It feels like just kind of cool life. When do you feel in flow? When do you kind of forget the time and forget to eat because you're just doing something you really love? And linked to that, but it's slightly different from being in flow, but what are you just passionate about? Are you passionate about the environment? Are you passionate about analytics? You just love analyzing stuff. Are you passionate about helping old people? Whatever it might be. But again, think these through and think, what do I really love doing? In terms of what the world needs, clearly this is a rapidly moving thing because you need the skills to thrive, and it's changing fast. Lockdown changed it, AI is changing it, etc. But and I won't go through these one by one. Again, you'll be sent it after. But things like critical thinking, communication, mental flexibility, interpersonal is as important now as it ever has been, although it's not always face-to-face. Sometimes it's Zoom, sometimes it's text, sometimes it's Slack. But basically, how can you still collaborate with others in a highly efficient but still human way? Self-leadership. If you're a portfolio professional, especially, there's no one kicking you out of bed in the morning, telling you what to do. You're doing it yourself. Can you do that? If not, work it out. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to do this. Can you be entrepreneurial? Can you think up new ideas? Can you join the dots? Can you see unmet needs and then find a way to service them? And then obviously digital speaks for itself. Are you digitally fluent? Are you keeping up with the latest software? Are you scared of new tech, or do you embrace it? Because again, if you're scared of it, you'll be obsolete pretty soon. And even when you read lists of skills needed to be employable, think about how it's evolving. So, for example, planning and ways of working is a phrase on the old list of what's required and the new list, but it's still evolving. The old requirements like managing in-person teams. Can you run a team meeting with everyone sitting around the table? The new requirements, managing remote teams. That has differences. How do you motivate people when they're not in the room? That kind of thing. Communication in the past was pretty much communicating with clarity. Here's what I want to happen. Are we clear? Going forward, it's communicating with clarity, empathy, emotional intelligence, being as good at listening as you are, giving instructions, etc. So the bar's going up and evolving, even when you see things that were on the old list and the new list. Now, clearly, what you can be paid for matters. You need to get paid for something. So where might you start? It might be things like coaching or consultancy. There's lots of people looking for someone that can help me build a logo, someone that can help me run a project, someone that can help me with my social media, someone that can help me write articles, whatever it might be. Freelancing is another good place to get started. Internships is another. Working with startups can be an area where you can sort of do a bit of part-time work with the startup. They often can't afford to hold people. Then you start saying, well, okay, I've got something up and running, but I need to scale my work a bit more. So you might say, well, beyond work, let's say beyond doing some work, can I run a workshop? Can I run a course? Can I write a book? Can I do public speaking? Can I write a newsletter? Can I build a community? It goes on and on and on. But what's a way to amplify what I'm good at so that it benefits more people? Because if it benefits more people, you'll probably end up making more money, or at least building a bigger personal brand, which over time knocks on to good things for you. And then can you develop multiple forms of revenue? So although it can be lucrative on an hourly basis, you probably don't want to just keep focused on how much do I earn per hour or per day or per month, but also think through, are there other ways to make money? Can I over time get some stock options in the companies that I work with, so that if they do well, I'll make some extra money? Can I create, if I'm writing a newsletter, can I get a sponsor for it who pay me just because I write thoughtful stuff and send it to intelligent people? Can I get partnership deals? What are the other ways? Can I create some intellectual property that generates revenue on the side? But in essence, how do you move on from earning money by the hour, by the day? And that the hour of the day is still the norm. It pays most people's bills. But for long-term wealth creation, how do you sort of get beyond wages? Obviously, doing what you're good at matters too. If you try and sell something that you're mediocre at, you'll never stand out. You'll never do that well. At best, you'll earn kind of the average wage in the industry, whatever that is. So you need to think through, well, what industries have I worked in? Where do I have knowledge? Where do I have a network that has knowledge that I can learn from them, etc. And don't just think, I'm young, I haven't done much. There's ways to learn. One of our members also went straight from university to the army, but wanted to work in startups. And he went and ended up working for free for a startup for a bit. So actually, he was doing like waiter jobs and stuff when he left to pay the bills. Was working for free in a startup to learn how to build a startup and run a startup, then went applying for jobs. And I was like, oh yeah, great. You've got startup experience. There's ways to build knowledge rather than waiting to be taught stuff. If you wait to be taught stuff, the world won't be there fast enough for you. You've got to learn new skills. Functional skills. What functional skills do you have or can you learn? Marketing, finance, HR, sales, management, etc. There's a lot of things that you either know or can learn. Either learn by doing, learn by shadowing, learn by reading, and probably all of the above. And then any other skills that you can think of. Do you have other qualifications? Can you get other qualifications? Can you get courses? Can you get badges? Things that help you stand out or give you new skills. So I talked about Ikigai earlier, but just to remember that Ikigai changes. What you love changes. Sometimes you do something, you love it for a while, and then you think, I'm bored. Or you're doing something that pays really well, but then too many people learn that skill, or demand for that skill drops off, and suddenly the rate of pay goes down. You think, right, okay, I need to do something else. What you're good at. If you don't remain cutting edge, then you'll go from being good to being mediocre. That's not cool. Or maybe what you're good at gets automated. That's not cool either. So both you will change and the world will change, and you need to at least every 6 months or so come back and say, is my Ikigai still the same thing, or do I need to actually have a bit of a rethink? Personal branding, one of my favorite subjects. Actually, my co-founder Fiona is literally a personal branding guru. You need to stand out. It's one of the best ways to do well. Now, for those of you that haven't studied marketing, I'm assuming there's someone here. What is a brand? Your brand is what other people say about you when you're not in the room. If you don't know that, maybe ask people that you know who know you well. How would you do it? Hopefully they'll be honest with you. But it's a mixture of like your beliefs, your story, your past deliverables, your energy, etc. It all kind of adds up into your brand. And you really need to think through what is your personal brand. So by the way, if you haven't seen it, there's a great YouTube video. I think it's about 15 minutes or so from Simon Sinek, I think he's the most popular business speaker on YouTube. It's called something like Start With Why. Really cool. It kind of says, you don't go to world saying, here's what I do. You don't say, here's how I do stuff. You say, here's why I exist. Here's my mission in life. Here's what I'm trying to achieve. You might talk about the what and the how to, but ultimately people buy into your energy and your mission more than they do about the nitty gritty. Kind of cool. Definitely worth a watch if you haven't seen it already. So here's an example. So Hannah's a member of the Portfolio Collective, late 20s, and she's sort of given some real thought to her brand. So you can see it here. I'm an integrative psychotherapist. In short, because obviously you need to explain that because no one knows what that means. I bring together elements of different schools of psychotherapy in order to enable my clients to better themselves. My drive for this comes from seeing the struggles of people around me growing up. She definitely grew up on the wrong side of the tracks and wants to help people. My life ambition is to become a leading psychotherapist with my own counseling practice. She is a thriving psychotherapist, already in her late 20s, independent, bit of a digital nomad too, traveling around the world, but helping people over Zoom. So it can be done. You just need to pull it all together into a nice coherent offering, etc. So your elevator pitch is along the following lines. What? I'm A. What are you? And then maybe an explanation, like in short, what do you do? In order to, why is that? What's the why? What's your drive? Where does your energy come from? And then where do I want to be at some stage in the future? Nice, simple exercise. To do it well takes a few iterations, so that you can literally knock it up in 5 minutes over a coffee. But have a go, maybe knock up 2 or 3. Think about which ones you like, test it with people you trust until you get to something that makes you happy, but also stands out from the crowd. So foundations, really important. What are some of the ways that you can sort of stay ahead of industries, keep an eye on stuff, etc.? And these are just examples, but can you read official reports that give you deep knowledge? This Future of Work OECD Employment Outlook might sound really dull for some. I actually read it cover to cover. It was probably the primary thing that led me to launch the Portfolio Collective, is when I read from the OECD forecast after forecast saying a lot of people won't have full-time jobs anymore. And that was written before lockdown as well, which is interesting because then obviously lockdown accelerated stuff. Maybe follow key influencers, people like Simon Sinek on LinkedIn or others. Don't really need to follow him. He's got a few million already, but that's partly because he's really clever and just a really good communicator. But who else? And it might be some people who only have a following of 100 people, but if they're passionate about what you're passionate about, find them, follow them. Stay on top of current affairs. Whether it's Google alerts that give you updates on stuff you care about, whether it's The Economist, or something in between. Maybe subscribe to relevant podcasts and newsletters. There's lots around right now. A lot of them are really good. I think I subscribe to about 15 or 20. And I'm always, every month I'll probably add one and delete one or whatever to try and keep it manageable, but on point. And then go to workshops and webinars. There's so many out there that are free right now, or it costs you 10 quid, 20 quid, but most are free. Get out there, listen, ask questions, see who else is on the call, connect with them on LinkedIn. But basically start getting out there and teaching yourself new things. Know your values. People have different values. A lot of us have similar ones. Things like health or community are high on a lot of people's lists, but not all, I guess. Although I don't know who wants to be unhealthy or not be part of community. But what are the other things what are the things that you really won't bend on? What are the things that you could bend on but you'd rather not, etc. And sort of write them down and think through, what kind of work does it lead me to? What kind of people do I want to work with? What kind of industry do I want to work in? And as I mentioned before, on personal brand, what are your differentiators? How do you stand out? Is it your energy? Is it your backstory? Is it a certain skill set? Is it you're hyper productive and efficient? Is it that you've won some awards that people are impressed by? Are you just a really good at listening and then playing back to people, complicated stuff in, clear ways? Whatever it might be, work it out. If you haven't worked it out, keep seeking out, what is it that that makes you different? And let's face it, we all are different. You just need to work out what it makes you different and to stand out from a work angle. You need an online presence of some sort. Always start with LinkedIn. It's by far the best place to have a great presence. We could talk for hours just about how to have a great LinkedIn profile, but really does matter. That's the main source of truth for who are you, what have you done in the past, etc. It's also a great place to expand your network, to find people to follow, to read interesting stuff, etc. Then depending on what you're doing, you might want a website, get one from Wix or Squarespace or whatever. You might want a blog. If you want to join the Portfolio Collective, you're welcome to. You can fill out a profile for free. Then you start getting connected with interesting people and opportunities, etc. But basically, beyond LinkedIn, work out what are the 3, 4, 5 other places that you should probably have a presence. If you want to be on Upwork, you want to be, there's different work platforms as well. You might need a profile or a presence. Okay, we're rattling through this nice and efficiently. We're going to finish on time. I'm sure you're pleased to know. Winning work via your network. So what we see is our members who are the most successful, everyone wins some work through platforms. So platforms aren't a bad thing, but they are competitive. You get a lot of people applying for work. The people that kind of make the most money and seem to be the happiest are the ones who get a lot of work through their network. And whether it's a network they've built or for the purpose of work now, or a network from the past. But and there's a few parts to that. So the first one is you need to optimize your existing network, but the second is to expand your network. So clearly you all have a network now. How do you stay in touch with your professional inner circle? Who are the people that you think you can learn from, you might like to work with? They might be an employer one day, whatever it might be. How do you stay in touch? Do you ping them on WhatsApp now and again? Don't be ashamed. It's an easy enough thing to do. And what's the worst they can do? Not reply. Well, okay, costs you 5 seconds. Do you propose a Zoom, a coffee, a walking meeting, a beer? Then you kind of engage your broader network. Maybe the people you know less well, but can you post things on LinkedIn? Can you actually look at what people are posting and actually just comment on their posts? People really appreciate interaction with their own posts, or likewise do something similar on Twitter. Then there's kind of expanding your network. Your network's never big enough. Actually, technically it is. LinkedIn has a limit of 30,000, but I'm guessing most of you aren't there yet. So until you hit 30,000 on LinkedIn, you can always expand your network. I actually have it. I have to pay someone to take off connections, but it's a nice problem to have. So first of all, there's kind of in your general network, who've you worked with on past projects? Who've you gone to school with, gone to university with, neighbors, friends, people you meet at conferences? Just keep adding them. And there's so many, just add a few people every single day. Then there might be other networks beyond LinkedIn. So the logo, there's the webinar vets. If you're a vet, if you're just a portfolio professional, join the Portfolio Collective, etc. But are there industry specific networks that you can join, or location specific, or function specific? But there's a lot of ways to join various networks. Personally, I think everyone should be active on LinkedIn and a member of 3 to 5 additional communities of some sort or another, because no one community will give you everything you need. And even LinkedIn's it's too big to be a community. It's more of a platform with every professional in the world on it, but you find community elsewhere. LinkedIn is more like a shop window, let's say. And then how do you sort of turn your network into paid work? Can you, for example, if a lot of people on social media will put problems. I've got a problem with X. Can anyone help? Do a bit of research, offer a suggestion, or offer a coffee, offer a Zoom. Some people will say yes. Maybe you've just won work. Maybe you look for people who have problems that they may be aware of, they may not. Drop them an email saying, hey, I noticed your website's terrible. Do you need help rebuilding it? Your brand doesn't make sense to me. If I was you, I'd probably be repositioning it. Do you need help? I noticed you don't get much engagement on your posts. Do you want help with that? Whatever it might be. What's the state of your finances? If you need help, I can probably help out, whatever it might be. It's whatever your skill set is and whatever company you'd like to work for, think about problems they might have and say, hey, if you need help with X, I'd love to get involved one way or another. Friends and family, tell them, offer them services in exchange for testimonials. Might be as simple as you sort of knock up someone's website, or you polish their LinkedIn, whatever. Again, it depends on what you're selling, but it's great to get testimonials on LinkedIn, on Trustpilot, depending on where, on Google reviews, depending on what it is that you do. So go out and help a few people for free if you need to, or for cheap, in order to get those testimonials. That then helps you win paid work. And can you send personalized proposals to people? It's amazing how often you can do it. Let's say you're a digital marketing expert. You can send a note to someone saying, hey, I noticed your Google search ads don't make sense, or your video actually is really grainy and pathetic. Do you want help rebuilding it, or whatever it might be? There's people welcome help, and if they don't, well, again, they probably won't respond, or they'll say, please don't send that again, and you just unfriend them. Life's too short to get stressed about that stuff. But plenty of people say, thank you for that. That's a fresh perspective. Let's talk. I mentioned the platforms. They do matter. There's two types of hiring platforms, simplistically. They're the ones where you literally fill out a profile and wait for the work to roll in. There are others where you need to proactively go and bid for work. And they do vary. You need to be aware of some, because if you go on the proactive ones and you just fill out a profile, you will never win work, because you actually have to bid for work. And on the passive ones, to a certain extent, you just have to do the work and then hope for the best. But obviously, if no work comes in, either it's the wrong platform for you, or you need to go in and polish your profile. So keep an eye on that. Just like with communities, where I said, most people need to be a member of 3 to 5 communities. I think most people probably who want portfolio work need to think through, what are the 3 to 5 platforms where I'll maybe build a profile and think about winning some work. I won't go through all of these. There's a very long list, but if you are into, I don't know, logo design or copywriting, or what have you, Upwork's probably a good one. Scoodle and a bunch of other, that's for like tutors. Goodstead's for volunteering. The Portfolio Collector is more sort of supporting startups. Traction is for digital marketers. Udemy's for trainers. It goes on and on and on. And there's a bunch of others out there. All in, I think we've counted about 150 part-time work platforms, about half a blue collar, half a white collar. So that's a lot to think through, but you definitely should think through which are the best ones for me. And if in doubt, give them a try. It typically takes about an hour to fill out a profile, so it's not that much wasted time. If you are pitching for work, you need to be really thoughtful. Spray and pray doesn't work. And I'll just give you a simple Upwork example. So now I'm going to outsource work on Upwork. And here's roughly the process. The first thing is the client posts the job. If you're going to apply for it, read it, and read it thoughtfully. It's amazing amount of people who apply for jobs when they haven't actually read the description of the job. And it's so clear that they will be ignored 100% of the time. So either read it and be thoughtful, or don't bother applying. The second thing that happens is that the person posting the work starts filtering people based on certain criteria. They need to have done so many jobs. They need to have this level of English. Their hourly rate needs to be this, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So you just need to make sure you filled out your profile appropriately, so you don't get filtered out for the work that you would like to do and you think you're qualified to do. Then you need to really sort of tailor your application. So an interesting list on Upwork when you place work, which I do occasionally, is what's your reason for rejection? You can see the list here: ignored instructions in job posting, insufficient work history. That list, this is how Upwork works. Those are the most common reasons for why people don't get work. Read the list, don't do it, because that's the reasons you lose work. And don't have the kind of generic spray and pray stuff. It just doesn't work. If you are going to use any platform, whether it's Upwork or anything else, I'd recommend 2 or 3 quality precision applications a day, rather than sort of 20 or 50 bad ones, because they just won't work. And then obviously, when you start doing a good job, you make sure you get ratings, you get reviews, you get written up, etc. By the way, this particular guy who got this piece of work, called Saeed, he's actually a rocket scientist in Pakistan, but on the side he works for Upwork. A clever guy, and it's great. He he actually came back to me and said, Ben, I think you've defined the job wrong. If I did what you asked me to do, the answer wouldn't make sense. So I suggest that I rewrite the question and then I'll tell you the answer. And he was right. So actually, every single other person would have given me an answer to a question that was actually badly worded. Saeed said, you need to do it properly. I gave him the job. I didn't quibble on it. It was $300. I forget, it was like a day's work or something. So he got nice money, especially for Islamabad. He actually makes quite good money now through the Portfolio Collective, so much so that he's an investor in the Portfolio Collective. So it's a very nice circular economy, but that's the kind of way to win work. So really be thoughtful and helpful. Okay, how do you optimize over time? So there's a sort of simple phrase, early career, you optimize for learning, later career, you optimize for earning. So in the early stage, it's much more important to learn, build your network, learn how to do useful work, learn how to pitch for stuff, learn how to build your brand, hang out with smart people. There's that phrase, you're only as smart as the 5 people you spend the most time with. Pick them wisely. As you get better and better, you can optimize for earning, but never stop learning because the world's changing too fast. You stop learning, 3 to 5 years, you're obsolete. What else can you do to boost your learning in the early careers? Volunteering. Whether that's with charities or startups or entrepreneurs, there's a lot of people out there will happily help smart, ambitious people do interesting work. And you're impressing people who, for startups, they love free labor or cheap labor, but when they do a raise, they pay market rates. They also often give stock options because they feel guilty that they're not giving much money. Or they'll pay you for X and say, I'm really sorry, it's not quite enough. But as soon as the raise comes in, I'll double your pay. So there's ways in. With charities, they tend to always pay badly. But A, you feel good about life because it's a charity. And B, often the other people working in the charity are kind of impressive people too. So you're building your network. Are there other ways to help your network? If you know any entrepreneurs, can you help them succeed in other ways? If you don't know any other entrepreneurs, get to know entrepreneurs. Another question we get a lot, especially for younger people, is how do you credentialize yourself without a brand name? You say it's easy for me. I had the Army and McKinsey and Coca-Cola on my CV. It's a fair statement, but in the current world, there are a lot less graduate trainee schemes out there, so you can't always do that. But there are other ways. Can you do things like Teach First or the Brit School or Y Combinator or whatever? There's sort of different accelerators and programs and things that you can go through that gives you a badge of quality and a network as well. Other awards you can win, it could be Forbes 30 under 30, all sorts of stuff. I went for a walk a couple of days ago with someone who won Barista of the Year award in the UK. He apparently makes pretty mean coffee. But there's lots of ways to do it. Obviously the network. Can you get people just to give you references on LinkedIn? Or which effectively help you look good, or build your network with the Portfolio Collective. Can you have newsletters or write on blogs or whatever it might be? And clearly, as with everything in life, you just need to keep pushing the boundaries. If you keep doing what you're comfortable with, what you're good at will remain the same. And quite frankly, over time, become less valuable because some of it will be automated or commoditized. So you need to always be saying, how can I stretch myself today? How can I do something today that I didn't know how to do yesterday? And it can be small, but if every day you improve your capability by 1%, you're about 4 times more capable a year later. So it's like, it's insane that a little bit of learning every day can make you so much more capable over time. Okay, finishing in plenty of time. I will stop sharing. Stop sharing. Here we go.
Lovely. Thank you
And
so much.
open up for questions.
Thanks, Ben. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing all of that with us today. It's been really, really interesting and very motivating, actually. So yeah, we'll take a few minutes, about 5 minutes or so, for a Q&A. So if anyone has any questions, if you could just put it in the chat now, and then we'll get to them in a moment. But yeah, it's been. I really like the at the beginning when you said about freelancing and side hustling remotely. It opens up opportunities for not
Big
only
time.
someone that's a professional but a business as well. So
Yeah,
you can find talent all around the world, not just an hour from your office. So
big
I think
time.
that was
Yeah.
a really good point. And just the breakdown of how to network as well is really important. It can be really nerve-wracking for people, especially graduates that want to reach out but don't really know how to or what the next steps are. So yeah, really, really interesting points.
People are much nicer than everyone assumes. And I say you also got to just think about it as like, what have I got to lose? You ask someone for some advice that, what's the worst they do is they'll ignore you. Well, okay, you've wasted a few seconds. Don't be spammy or whatever, and don't hassle them if they say, please don't hassle me. But that's it. You've sent them something and they didn't respond. But you send out 10, you might get 2 or 3 responses. Well, that's kind of nice.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Right. So, someone has actually asked it, can I contact you if I need help? So probably we'll send you over to the, we'll add links as well,
Sure.
within the video afterwards. But Ben, if you wanted to,
Yeah, I just want to say everyone's welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn, ping me questions. Obviously, I'm very busy, but I'm actually pretty conscientious because I like helping people. If you ask me to write you an essay, the answer is no. But if you ask me, a quick question or to, whatever, to share an article or something like that, very happy to do that, or an intro to someone, etc. So I will, while we're chatting, I'll put a few links in. I'll put one to the Portfolio Collective. I'll put one to my LinkedIn, etc. Let's just, here we go. I guess it's in chat. Here we go. So that's the Portfolio Collective. And let's do one for me. Right. And there's one for me. So you got a couple of links there, the Portfolio Collective and me. Okay, so let me have a look. Recent graduate in MSc Automotive Engineering, specialized in design engineering. What's the suggestions for me? Obviously, that's a complex question that could take a long time. What would I say? In general, I'd say if you're something like an engineer, which obviously I am, you need to learn to be a good engineer before going independent. So I'd probably say I'd aim for a full-time job in a company you can learn a lot. So don't do something that you're just milking it, but it needs to be a boss you can learn from, on projects you can learn from. If you're keen on a portfolio career, I'd say start thinking about doing stuff on the side. And the beauty when you're just doing stuff on the side when you've got a day job is you can take risks. So can you, for example, work with the startup and say, hey, never open with, I don't need to be paid, but the reality is you've got a day job. Can I help out? Can I help on a project? You impress people at some stage, they say, hey, can you wind down the day job a bit? I need a bit more of your time. Or and you say, yeah, but you got to pay me, or I need some stock options or something else. Or maybe a success fee. When this product goes live, I need 5 grand, 10 grand. There's a lot of ways to structure it, but I'd probably say in any profession, whether it's law, medicine, engineering, whatever, get a bit of professional experience in a company that will teach you, because university itself doesn't give you enough. But quite frankly, after 2, 3, 4 years, if you got an itchy foot, it's fine to move on, or you might want to do it longer.
Brilliant. Thank you, Ben. There's another question there. I heard work-related experience is important, but when I graduate from university, I don't graduate with a lot of experience. Then how is it good to fill the CV?
Yeah, so I'd certainly say, hopefully you got work experience from university holidays. Most people do. That's a great thing to put in. Even just like turning up every day to work in a shop or work in a in a resort, looking after spoiled brats or whatever it might be. It's all good stuff. It's people skills. It's turning up. It's people skills. You've been through some training. You've done a job. You didn't get fired. It's good stuff. One of the biggest worries with all employers is that young people are flaky. They're not very good at managing themselves, managing their time, turning up, listening, concentrating, etc. So just evidence that you've done that is a really good thing. If you haven't worked in the holidays, first of all, why not? But secondly, what else can you do? And that's where volunteering can help. Especially if you're out of work, looking for work, never sit still. Everyone prefers hiring someone who's already in a job than not in a job. So even if it's volunteering with a charity, working with a startup, helping a friend with a project, even if it's not paid, obviously it's better it's paid. And again, never go out with I don't need to be paid, but sometimes it happens. But then people say, what are you doing now? Oh yeah, I've got a friend is setting up a competitor to Tough Mudder, and I'm designing the obstacles. Whatever, a random thing there. But yes, I met somebody just doing that the other day. But basically, you've got a cool story to tell. You're doing real work. You demonstrate passion and enthusiasm. That makes you much more employable.
Brilliant, Ben. Thank you so much. I actually have a question as well.
Sure.
Before anyone else, if anyone else has any others, just pop it into the chat now. But there is a fine line between doing something that you love and working. And
Yeah.
is there a way to not allow that hobby to kind of take over as a job? I know you did mention to kind of
Yeah.
reevaluate that the Japanese term, but is there a way to kind of mitigate that to be too much work almost?
So the question is how do you stop the hobby becoming taking over?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
Well, I guess the key is if the hobby's paying well,
Yeah.
then you can let it take over. If it's not, you need to kind of manage your time. What I do, and a lot of our members do, is have really quite strict color coding in calendars and set rules for how long each thing gets. So for example, I'm a sucker for helping anyone on any reason and doing it for free. But at some point I realized it was half my calendar, and that's not the right use of time. I've still got to pay the bills and other things. So I said, right, my sort of unpaid helping the world be a better place is like 6 hours a week. It normally ends up being 8 or 10, but at least I try to set a cap and I color code it, and I can see if my calendar's getting wonky, because I need to spend time building the Portfolio Collective. I need to spend time, I do consulting on the side too to pay the bills, because the Portfolio Collective doesn't pay me. So yeah, I need to build a Portfolio Collective. I need to pay the bills. I put in like putting my kids to bed or going to the gym in the calendar, because otherwise it doesn't happen. So calendar management is probably the best way, I'd say.
Brilliant. All right. Well, thank you so much. So if anyone doesn't have any more questions, I think it seems like you've answered everyone's thoughts. So thank you so much, Ben, for your insight, and it's been really motivational for everyone. And thank you for everyone to attending as well. You can watch this session back on our YouTube channel, Graduate Mentor, or we do have a new podcast account on Spotify, so you can listen back to it there too. But otherwise, take care, everyone, and thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Take care.